So, hey, it's Romania Black, and I kind of made a boo-boo. It's not a big deal, but I have been saying, I realized for the last several episodes, I was like, oh, there's 13 episodes in this season. 13 episodes. 13 episodes, we got 13 episodes, we're fine. And last episode, I spent a large chunk theorizing about how we had 13 episodes, and then I got onto the Discord after I recorded episode 11 and was like, yeah, it's crazy, we got 2 episodes left, and everybody was like, there's only 12 episodes in this season, and I went, what? Apparently, when I was told originally there was 13 episodes to this season, there were, but episode 8.5, which is the mid episode, the recap episode, was counted in that 13, and I was like, oh, well. So, that, honestly, you would think, I'm very bittersweet about it, because you would think I'd be devastated. I'm actually bittersweet and mostly okay with that, because it means that, okay, we had Kazuki and Ray come together last episode and say they're going to be a real family, a real set of dads for Mary, and that's what they're going to do. And I was like, okay, well, that if you had 2 episodes to resolve that, then things might seem like they're going well, but then the last episode, it's this tragic twist and it's a horrible ending. But the fact that we only have 1 episode left means like, okay, maybe there'll be some good resolution. Maybe they will actually do something, resolve it, and be able to take care of Mary. I am hopeful. I am hopeful for that. I'm really like, show, don't you give me a bad, sad ending. There were some people, Tony Simi and some others commented being like, oh yeah, I like an angsty, sad ending. And I was like, no, I am not a sad ending person. I'm like, the real world is full of sad endings. I want my escapist fiction to be happy, damn it. And yes, we can go through some angsty times and some despair and sorrow, but at the end of the day, I want sunshine and rainbows on the horizon. I want some happy endings for my escapist fiction. So yeah, I'm hoping that the darkest days are behind us and that we're going to end on a happy note. But this season, this series, we'll talk in the discussion about if it's going to get a sequel or not, or if we think that's even likely with how the plot has gone. But I have been so surprised by this series. So surprised. When I decided to watch this series, I was fully convinced it was going to be like a Spy Family ripoff. I was like, well, maybe it'll have some BL elements, and that's kind of the only reason I watched it, honestly, was because I was like, Buddy Daddies, it seems like a BL version of Spy Family, and maybe there'll be some subtext and stuff. Maybe it'll just be kind of fun. And I have fallen in love with this series. I like it more than Spy Family. I really do. And I am fully prepared this summer to have you a video comparing the two and talking about why Buddy Daddies is better than Spy Family. Coming to a YouTube and Patreon channel near you in summer of 2023, hopefully when I have time to make it. But I want to script it this month and then start on it in May, like getting it put together. I have ideas. My biggest problem is I have lots of ideas and not enough time to do them. So my hope is that when my summer schedule, if all goes well, will give me more time off. And so that'll give me some more time to work on it. That's my goal anyway. But yeah, I love this series. I've loved how Ray has developed. I didn't think at the start of this, I thought I was going to be a Kazuki fan, true and true, because he's voiced by Haiji's voice actor, who I love. I love Haiji from Run with the Wind. And I was like, I'm going to love his character. And I felt like I was going to like Ray, but this season, I have actively rooted for Ray and watched him grow as a character in the most subtle but yet satisfying and noticeable ways. And it's just like, oh, it's so good. And honestly, we've talked about this in the Discord and in the comments. I get such Skate the Infinity vibes from this series, and I think it helps that it's an anime original, just like Skate the Infinity was. So I feel like the creators have a little bit more liberty to do whatever they want with it and to take risks and be bold. And I love series like that. Like, they may not be perfect, but they take risks in the right emotional areas. That a lot of series play it safe. And that's kind of where I'm like, safe is fine, but safe isn't the most fun. And I'm here for the most fun, darn it. So yeah, Buddy Daddies just came out of nowhere to completely win me over. And I want more. It's like Skate the Infinity. And Skate the Infinity has told us they're doing a second season. So if that series can do it, then I'll wait, but we'll talk about it in the discussion afterwards, whether or not we think it would be warranted or whether it'll even happen. If it doesn't happen, I am going to savor this series so much. It's maybe a comfort anime. I think it is. We'll see how this episode goes. If this episode ends all right, then yes, we'll definitely do that. But I've got a couple comments to talk about before we dive in. Lou over on Patreon actually said that on the official Buddy Daddies website, there was a bonus story released that was like a prequel little pre-canon thing with Kazuki and Rei. And I was like, oh, and apparently somebody on Tumblr has translated it. And so they actually gave me the link. And so during our discussion, I have it pulled up here. We're going to go and look at that pre-canon thing right there and talk about it. So I've got that pulled up. We're going to look at that. We're going to react to that. That's going to be fun. And then, so thank you, Lou, so much. And then, Sasha pointed this out on Patreon, and I was like, oh my gosh. And that is, I never really put two and two together, or maybe if I hadn't said it, I'd forgotten about it. But Miri, the lyrics in the OP that says, there you go, you got me wrapped around your finger again. And it's Miri holding onto a finger, and it's Rei's. And I'm like, oh. And that makes so much sense now, because Rei at the end of episode 11 being the one to get Kazuki to go after her, to be a dad, to take care of her together. I was like, Rei pulling this family together. I was like, yes. I was like, he's not letting his stray kitten go. I was like, man, that is such a great moment. So thank you, Sasha, for pointing that out. And then finally, Tony Simi, I talked about that Rei constantly has a shirt on that has like, I thought it was like a Quincy symbol from Bleach, but Tony Simi pointed out that it could be like a sniper scope. And I was like, oh, that does make a lot more sense, because Rei is a sniper, he's an assassin. If it was a scope, that would be cool. But also, the little sniper scope is over his heart. So yeah, Miri just like got him in the feels, right in the heart. Right? I love it. And also, Tony Simi and several others have talked about this, but Tony Simi sent me the link to the two voice actors singing the ED. I listened to it before watching this episode, and look, y'all, if you want to point me out, I've had some people on Twitter be like, oh, you can't draw homoerotic like BL symbolism with the story. And I'm like, yes, I can, and I will. But also, because subtext is a free-for-all, right? It's subtext. But also, I'm like, come on. You have the two VAs singing an ED about love together. Okay. If you didn't want the subtext to be there, you didn't have to have them sing it. You didn't have to. How many other series don't have their VAs sing the ED in a duet together, harmonizing? Coincidence? I think not. So... that's all I'll say about that. But it was very, very sweet, and they harmonized really well together, and I was like, okay. All right, show. So I'm so excited, y'all. I can't wait. Real quick before we dive in, I want to give a special shout out to our philanthropy tier over on Patreon. On Patreon, I have 3 tiers. One tier is just for Discord access and access to the polls to vote for new shows that I watch. The other tier is to do those 2 things, as well as see videos a week early than everybody else on YouTube. And then the final tier is just people that want to donate extra, who are super kind and supportive and help me support like the software that I use, the streaming services that I use, the subscriptions that I have to Crunchyroll and other things, and buying the anime and manga that I use for my reactions, because I like supporting the official release and the creators that create the shows. So I like giving back to that. So thank you guys so much for being so kind and generous. I really, really appreciate it. So we have our philanthropy tiers for this month. Thank you guys so much. We have Tyrone, Anime Annie, Dana, Edgar, Truck, Kenny, Arjo, Shimoyama, Nameless Monster, as well as Translucent Men and Be Happy. You guys are awesome. I really, really cannot thank you enough for supporting me in all of this fun chats that I have with you all about these shows. All of my love. I greatly appreciate it. So I'm not ready for this to be the end. And it kind of like, the moment I found out that this was the last episode, I like had to sit down and go, okay. I was expecting 2 more episodes, but honestly, I've made peace with it that this is the last one. But I'm really sad because I really like this show. So, but we'll watch together, y'all, and just see what happens, right? So we're going to start Buddy Daddies episode 12, and we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's check our subtitles. Make sure they're on. They were not. Look at me. And then we're going to go. That was wonderful. I loved that so much. Oh, what a great ending. Oh, I want to go through it with you all, but what a great ending. And oh my gosh, just partners, y'all. Partners. The bond between Kazuki and Rei. Yeah. The bond between Kazuki and Rei. What I love about this show is that honestly, there's so much subtext, right? There's so much subtext. And they don't, because here's the thing. This show is, it's not a BL, not technically, right? It's not a boys' love technically, but there is enough canon material there and a lot of subtext. And what I like is that shows like this, they make it very ambiguous, right? They leave it up to the audience to decide like how far do you want to go with it, right? I'm all in. I'm like, nope, they are. And here's the thing. And when I say all in, here's my thing. And we were talking about this in the comments, both on Patreon and on YouTube, about this being like a queer platonic relationship, right? Where you don't have to look into this as that Rei and Kazuki are like getting it on all the time. You don't have to look into that at all, right? You don't have to say that because the show doesn't really come out and say that at all. There's no hugs. I mean, there's like some one-armed hugs several times. There's not any like big embrace. There's not any kissing. There's nothing sexual that is explicitly said about the relationship between Kazuki and Rei. But like Rei tells his father, he's like, the bond between Rei, Kazuki, and Miri, it is stronger than blood. It is like found family. It is just this relationship where they're more than just lovers. They are partners. And it reminds me so much of Ash and AG from Banana Fish. It's like a soulmate vibe. Like there may not be any explicit sexual content in their relationship or any like romantic elements, but it is like a bond that is deeper than any romantic relationship. It's deeper than blood. It is like they are together. They're partners raising this girl as their daughter daddies. We'll talk about the whole sequel thing. But it's a bond. And a lot of people are talking in the comments about the idea of like a queer platonic relationship where it doesn't have to be sexual, but it's just the idea that these two men are living together, taking care of them, and it's just like this bond that's so deep, right? And I know that a lot of people who are maybe homophobic or maybe will try to read being like, well, they just said at the end that Kazuki was out drinking with a girl. I'm like, okay, yeah, but it's been 10 years. He ain't settled down with any, right? He's still living with Rei. So what then, right? That's what I mean, right? And it's like, yeah, Kazuki can go out drinking with girls. I imagine that those girls in the casino, he goes out and drinks with them and hangs out with them a lot, right? I mean, Kazuki's our bisexual king, right? As we talked about the hydrangeas in episode 7. So yeah, Kazuki can go out drinking with girls. There ain't nothing wrong with that. He's like, oh, well, this just at once, right? And because Rei's like, honest work, really? But at the end of the day, who does Kazuki come home to? Rei. I'm fully convinced because we know that Miri lives upstairs above the restaurant at the end, which means that Kazuki lives up there. And from, again, context clues, from Rei's speech to his father, he says, the warmth of sharing a bed with 3 people, we can draw the conclusion that Rei stays with Kazuki because they're partners. And that's just how it is, right? And I love that. I love that you don't have to be in a sexual relationship with someone to be in a relationship with someone, right? You don't have to do that, right? People are on the A spectrum and that's a thing. So I love that. I just love the idea that Kazuki and Rei are partners. They're together. They're more than friends. They're just so together. And I like that, around Mira, they're like, oh, well, we don't have to get, there's still that back and forth banter. They're like, do we really have to get that close for a photo? And Miri, who's a high school student at the end, is like, dads, come on, you're both my fathers, and you live together. Let's be real. Like, she's like, come on, you know, as far as we know. Now, somebody could argue that we don't know if Ray lives with Kazuki, but that whole speech to his dad leads us to believe that, yes, they all live together. That's just how it goes, right? And I don't see Ray being interested in any women. He's never shown any interest in that, so I fully think that he's totally fine. He may be asexual himself and just wants to be in this queer platonic relationship with Kazuki, and that's absolutely beautiful. I love it so much because it's just so wonderful to see these two characters who absolutely care about each other. They put their lives on the line for each other and killed for each other. Like, let's be real. And it's like, yeah, I love, we'll talk more about that in credit scene. I'm like, oh my God, that was just a joy. I was like just obsessed with it because that's the kind of stuff I love in series. I'm like, you get to see like an epilogue, right? Yeah, no OP for this one, but I love that it goes from buddy daddies. And again, buddy daddies to daughter daddies. Like, they were two friends, two buddies, partners in crime that became fathers, and in the end, they took on a daughter together and became a real family. That's the thing too. If anybody tries to argue that they don't think that Ray and Kazuki are going to end up as a family together, that's the whole point of the show, is that they end up being a real family together. Two men, two fathers and a daughter together, and that's the whole point. I absolutely adore it, right? But we need to go through this episode, and then we'll talk about the Tumblr thing as well. So they frame it really well, because at first you think that I thought it was a flashback at first when she jumps on Ray, Miri does, off the couch, and I thought, okay, well, we're flashing back to before, but then we realize it's snowing, and I just love that they just, show Kazuki coming out, like, scratching his butt through his sweatpants, being like, oh yeah, somebody's a morning person. Poor Ray indeed. I love that Ray and Kazuki kept the red and blue thing going all the way up to the end, where Ray wore blue and Kazuki wore red. I'm like, sure thing. But the fact that it's snowing and Miri goes, and I love that Miri's like, she wants to go out in the snow, and Kazuki's like, it has to be after breakfast, and Ray's like, breakfast? One thing that I absolutely adore is that Ray becomes a chef. He becomes a cook. Ray went from eating nothing but cereal and junk food to becoming a chef. And you know damn well he learned it from Kazuki. One thing I love about series like this is that when they have a big time skip like they do at the very end, and then you see some things happen like him becoming a cook, I'm like, you know damn well that there better be some fan fiction out there about Kazuki teaching Ray how to cook. There better damn well be some fan fiction. I want to read all the Buddy Daddies fan fiction, all of it now. I want to go on an AO3 purge to show, like this show, they know exactly what they're doing. They were like, we just gave you a 10-year time skip and didn't tell you what happened. We gave you a little bit of context clues, which we'll go over at the end. But they're like, we're not going to tell you everything that happened, so if y'all want to get on AO3 and fill in the gaps, go for it. And writers were like, I just feel like every Buddy Daddy writer like cracked their knuckles at the end of this episode and were like, yes! And I can't wait to read it. So, oh my gosh. But yeah, the fact that Ray learned to cook probably from Kazuki, and his signature dish is the damn French toast that Kazuki made him and Ray. My heart, I was like, nope, sending me. The fact that Ray wanted to prove that him and Miri can make the food and do it, and then Kazuki approves. I will never get over Japanese people eating salad with their breakfast. Maybe other people do that. I don't know. In the Midwest, nobody eats salad with breakfast. That's like never an option. Maybe it should be health-wise, but it's just like, if you go to the Midwest in the United States, you are not going to see salad on a breakfast bar. Just not going to happen where I'm at. And he says that you passed. And I love that Ray and Miri like tap hands. Ray went on a journey this season. I feel like Kazuki did too. But honestly, when I started this series, I thought Kazuki was going to be the big journey. I thought Kazuki was going to be the big journey and Ray was going to be like the side character, but it actually ends up being the opposite. Like they're equals, don't get me wrong, but I feel like Ray goes on the biggest journey character-wise to develop, and Kazuki develops, but he's still, by the end of the series, Kazuki is more or less the same a little bit. He's just moving forward and accepting, and Ray is the one that totally does the 180. He goes from being like a cold, emotionless assassin who bottles up all of his emotions and doesn't know what to do with them, to being one that expresses through making food and through taking care of his daughter and all of that. It's so beautiful. And he's the one that gets the big speech at the end with his dad. We'll talk about that. But that was so wonderful. And then, yeah, Mary's struggling to get her boots on. Like, it's been a whole year. And kids' little feet, they grow fast. Little kids' shoes are like the biggest waste of money because they're only good for like a short time and then they outgrow them and move on to the next pair. And so, like, it's been almost a year with the snow. And then she has her handkerchief and everything. The moment that Ray came down in the suit, though, I was like, okay, they're going to go take care of business after they drop her off. They're in their signature look from the beginning of the series. They're in their signature look, going to go take care of business. Oh, my gosh. And then she's outside. And they said it's been 1 year since we got Mary. And that's why those boots are too small for her now. So, okay, so she was 5. So, yeah, she's 15 at the end. So, if Ray and Kazuki were in their mid-20s, if they were like 25, if Ray was 25, so he's 35 so he's like almost he's a little bit older than me at the end of the series. And Kazuki's like a little bit older, like 37, 38. Very realistic portrayal. Like, I'm in my 30s. So I feel like when I was younger, I thought 30s was so old. And now I'm like, no, not at all. I don't feel it at all. So yeah, I like that they realistically portrayed like two guys like aging up in their mid-30s. I was like, yeah, okay, good. And that's my thing too, is the fact that they both, at the end of the day, these two guys in their mid to late 30s, living together, taking care of Mary, still, not with other people. Like, yeah, sure, Kazuki goes out and drinks with girls, but at the end of the day, he comes back home to Ray. And Ray's just like, whatever. So, yeah, it can be in an open relationship. Why not? But be open-minded, right? I said, what do you want for your present? And it's Santa. I love that they use Santa Claus as kind of I like that Santa Claus becomes a symbolic metaphor in this, because he was the image of Santa Claus was at the beginning of the series when Kazuki was dressed up as Santa Claus saving Miri. And the idea of keeping a child's dream alive is kind of portrayed through this image of Santa Claus. And they talk about it later when they're in the car together. But the idea that Santa is kind of this representation of here's this child's dream, and we're going to do whatever we can to keep it going. Even if we know it's not real, we're still going to make sure it still like happens for her, right? Because she deserves it, right? Like, they know they're not her real parents, that her biological parents are dead, but they're keeping her dream of having a family alive by being there for her. And that's so sweet. I love that message, right? I like how they translate that into the story. And she's like, my present. He's like, oh, I'll make sure Santa gets the message. And she's like, Mama already told Santa what I want. And that's when, the moment the mom is mentioned, that's when Ray's like, okay, it's time. Like, speaking of which, we have things to take care of, right? We've got to take care of Ogino, who killed Masaki, right? And she just like is humming Silent Night. And and they're like, it's been a while since we've dropped her off. Yeah, so this is right after getting back from Kyu's place, right afterwards. Now, I want to talk about this moment with Miss Anna. And she's like, oh, it's you two today, right? Like, because here's the thing. I'm sure that Anna, as the woman at this daycare, has noticed that Masaki has been getting Miri lately back and forth, and now it's back to them. And there's the way that Kazuki and Ray have this conversation. Anna is an intelligent woman, and throughout the series, she has shown that she's very perceptive, and she kind of reads between the lines and gets things. And so they're like, oh yeah. And she's like, will her mother be joining you for tonight's Christmas party? And they're like, oh, it'll just be me and Ray, actually. And that's when she's like, oh, really? And that's when Mary's like, oh, Mama's not coming. And that's when Kazuki gets down and says, hey, your mom's going on a trip for a while. And at that point, I wondered if Mary's mom, who has known that Masaki has been in and out of this relationship, I imagine that Anna would fill in the gaps and realize going on a trip for a while might mean that she's not coming back. But Kazuki is doing the kind thing to tell Miri in a way that she'll understand, like, hey, she's going to be gone for a while. What I love is that at the end, you see Miri with the picture of her mom, and she's like, oh, bye, Mom. like, by that point, we as the audience are given the idea that Miri knows what's happened to her mom. Like, she's old enough to understand, which means that she's 15, she's in high school. Ray and Kazuki have probably had the talk with her about what happened to her mom and her real dad. And she's accepting of that. That's why I like it. That's what I love about it, is that they understand that Miri is a kid, but she's perceptive. She doesn't take things for granted. And what I love by the end of the series is that Miri seems to have accepted that fact that, yeah, I know my biological parents are not with me anymore, but my two parents are. And I love that she's accepting of that. That's great, right? That's great. But I feel like Anna reads between the lines, or is able to, right? And she's like, I'm going to sing a whole lot. And Kazuki's like, oh, I bet you will. She said she really wished that she could watch you, which she did, right? That's true. That is the truth. And then, of course, Kazuki doesn't want to make it too downtrodden, because he does, Kazuki was like holding her in his arms as she dies. So he was just like, yeah, your mom said she wanted to hear you sing as she was bleeding to death. And so then, to compensate, Kazuki's like, oh God, I don't want to make Miri sad. So he tries to compensate and said, oh, well, Santa asked her to help out press all the presents, so that's why she's not here, so don't worry about it. And Ray looks at him like, dude, you didn't have to go that far. Like, you didn't have to add that. Because even Miri's like, what are you doing, Papa Kazu? I love she calls him Papa Kazu. And she's like, Mama's not coming. And Kazuki's like, oh, Miri. And that's when Ray steps in and says, make sure you sing loud enough that your mom hears you. I about cried. I was like, oh no. I was like, that is the most sad, sweet thing that Ray's like sing so your mom can hear you. That just might get so full of emotion at that line. Like, that just cut so deep. And even Kazuki's like, oh, that's saying that for her. And Miri's like, are you going to come see me? And they're like, of course we are. We'll be there. And she's like, you better be there. We will. And I love that she does the pinky promise. And she's like, pinky promise. I love that Ray's like, is this a loyalty oath? And Kazuki's like, come on. I like that Kazuki's like, dude, we aren't this. She's not in the Yakuza, right? Although, we'll talk about that. And he's like, come on, man. Let's make a pinky promise. Mm-hmm. If you break it, you got to eat 1,000 nails. That's such like a little kid thing to say. And then her friends go. They ask for her. And Anna's like, Miri's been practicing really hard. You should definitely make sure you're there tonight. Please look forward to her singing. But the thing of it is, I love Anna as a character because she doesn't judge them. She doesn't ask questions. She's not prying. She's not gossipy. She's not like putting her nose in other people's business. You can tell she probably can read between the lines and can sense what's going on with the mom, that there's something tumultuous there. But the fact that Ray and Kazuki are supportive and there for her, she's like, okay. I like Anna's character because of how she is. And then we go to Q. Hey, I'm not gonna be a homewrecker and get in the middle of Kazuki and Ray's blood bond relationship. I'm not about to do that, But here's the thing. If Q needs somebody, I'm here. And here's the thing, we see Q on the bulletin board, but I'm assuming he goes off and does his own thing, or he's still in the picture, just not, maybe he's at the bar and they have the restaurant and maybe the bar's I was trying to think of location of where they're located, because they seem like they're in a more southern region at the end because of the palm trees. Like, maybe they're in a more south location where it's a better, warmer climate. Like, they moved a little bit south in Japan to stay. Which made me a little bit sad, because I was like, is Miri not with her friends from school anymore? What about Taiga? Is Taiga in the picture still? Do we know? Or did she move on to another school and Taiga and her friends are now at other high schools? I wanted to know more about that. And we'll talk about that at the end of the episode. But yeah, I was like, where did Q go? I'm hoping he's still around, because they little cut out the bird's nest and everything. And I like that the bird for the bar is tied to the diner that they created, like the symbol of it. So I feel like they're related, right? But man, Q-Chan looking pretty fine when they come up to meet him. And he got them the goods, gave them the Santa costume and the weapons. And then I like that Q says, he's like, I share responsibility for what happened to the mom. But also, it's like Q having a hand in all this. He knows that he's not really safe anymore either, especially not from Rio. So he's like, I need to help you. You guys need to succeed. And then, yeah, he asks how Kazuki's doing, and he's like, oh, well, the painkillers are doing their job, I guess. And Ray's like, and the goods we discussed. And he's like, I've got all ready. And then I love that, God, there's so much banter between Kazuki and Ray. There's so much banter. There's so much between the two of them that you cannot tell me that they're not together, like, in this platonic, beautiful relationship. Whether or not, like, if you want to make it romantic and make it, like, you know, make it PG-13 or higher, do it. I'll read it. But if you told me they were just, like, in a platonic relationship, that they were soulmates and best friends, absolutely. Like, there's no doubt. But they're partners, and they're in this platonic, beautiful relationship. If it's at the very least a queer, platonic, beautiful relationship. At the most, they're doing it. They're not in a you know, monogamous relationship. I'm sure Kazuki can go do whatever he wants. But I love Kazuki's, like, little smirk that he has. He's like, they're genetically inclined to be bad with words after all. That smirk on his face, I was like, oh my gosh, you've got to be kidding me. I was over the moon. And it's just like it's like that's some stuff you say at a family gathering, right? With your spouse or your partner, where you're just like, well, you know, they're just, you know, it's a genetic thing, right? Yeah, you can't convince me that they're not. It's like, oh my God. And Q's like, making trouble for me right to the end. Mm-hmm. And then he says, Q-chan, if anything happens to us, get Miri a Christmas present. I like that he's not accepting that. Q's like, I'm not doing your dirty work. Come back alive. Quit being bakas. It's great. And so they're like, the Santa Claus outfit is from Miri. And he's like, it's not like Q-chan to enable us like that. But Kazuki brings up the point. He's like, we have to take on the organization head on. We can't just run away. We'll never fully shake the organization. We have to go to the core of it, tell them that we're out, and be like, don't mess with us. We're two men, but we are dangerous. Just let us go, y'all. And then that's when they bring up the idea of ever believing in Santa Claus. And here's the thing. It's just like, at the end of the day, Kazuki never had parents. He didn't have a childhood. He didn't have the concept of Santa Claus. And so he's overcompensated this whole time, trying to give Miri this great childhood based on what he thinks he should do as a parent, what he thinks a kid should have, because he never had these things or a relationship like that in his childhood. And Ray, even though he did have a childhood and was financially supported, he was not emotionally supported at all. And his dad just raised him up to be a killer. And I am glad that Ray, you know, he took the high road and was like, thanks for teaching me how to survive. Now bye. You know, like, you taught me to survive and be on my own. Now I'm gonna do that. So it's like Ray's like, you expected me to take over a family business just because of my blood. Like, you did no emotional, like, support towards me at all. Like, what did you expect was gonna happen? And it's like, I absolutely love it, right? Mm-hmm. He's like, I don't even remember my parents, which is why I love that Kazuki's so dedicated. And Ray's like, yeah, Miri's believed in him from the start. And he says, keeping your kids' dreams alive is part of a parent's job, even if you have to lie a little. Yeah, because that's like the thing with Santa Claus. Like, you know, I never resented my parents for telling me about Santa Claus and that he was real, you know. You don't resent your parents for that because you're a kid. It's like the wonderment of childhood. And then as you grow up, you start to understand certain realities that you maybe weren't ready to accept as a kid, right? And so I feel like Miri, by the end of this episode, she knows her mom's dead and probably knows the circumstance of it, but she's accepted that because she's matured and knows about it, right? And I love that Miri's voice actress stays the same. Like hearing that voice actress go from being like little 4-year-old, 5-year-old Miri to being a teenager and having the same cadence and everything. It was so cool. I was like, oh, that's great. I love that. And then I love that Ray wants to wear the Santa suit. And Kazuki's like, man, you really have changed. And yeah, he has. Ray definitely has. And then he's like, no. He's like, you've changed, but there are 2 suits. And then he says, there are 2 suits. And he's like, that's our Q-chan. He doesn't miss a beat. It's like, we're partners. We're doing this together, right? And then he's like, let's find out what perils await. And when they go there, oh, for one thing, I like the idea of it's a very BL trope in a lot of stories that there is a character in the couple that I've read a lot of BLs at this point, not a ton, but I've read enough to know that one of the tropes is like sometimes in a BL relationship, one of the guys in the couples, he's not really like that's the thing. A lot of people think like, oh, since they're a BL, they're into like all guys. No, not the case. Like MXTX's works, for example, like Heaven Official's Blessing, Moda Azushi. The main characters in those series, even though they're in like a BL relationship, they're not into other guys. They're just into this one guy. Like it's very much a demisexual, like we're into this one dude and that's it. That's the relationship, right? And I felt that trope with Kazuki when the guy like starts to pat him down. He's like, hands off the ass, perv. It's like only Ray gets to do that. It kind of gave me that vibe. Like I gotta like, okay, that's that BL trope that Kazuki likes the ladies, but he likes Ray. So Ray is like the only dude he's into. And that is a trope in a lot of BL with some characters. And I'm totally on board with it. I love it. And then Ray's whole deal is like he's not into women at all, but he's into Kazuki. So I'm like, yes, please. And then he's like, hang on, I need to get to tag along. And they try to say he's saying there. And I love that it's Ray that says, he's my partner. I'm like, yes. I was on cloud 9. I was like, do it, Ray, do it. Like, we go together. And they're like, oh, you think you can take all of us? And then it's like, I am going to take photos of this. I love that Ray says, he's my partner. And he says that. And then Kazuki says, he's a living weapon. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's wonderful. I just love it so much. It's this whole thing of them breaking in. Now, granted, you could argue that there's stormtrooper aim and all of that, but don't care. I'm like, it's an anime logic. We'll go with it. They do show damage, and they do show our boys getting shot and bloodied up. So you can't say they can get out of there unscathed, right? That, when I make that Spy Family Buddy Daddies video, that is something where in this series, you do not come out unscathed. Like, there is wounds. We got to talk about painkillers and bandages and first aid, all of that. And so, Ogino, we'll talk about Rio. His death was, oh my God, gruesome. Gruesome indeed. This felt like, you know what this felt like? It felt like Die Hard. Which Die Hard is a US movie. A lot of people think it's a Christmas movie because it occurs during Christmas and there's other elements, but I got such like a Die Hard vibe in this movie, right? It reminded me of that a little bit, and I was 100% here for it. But the smoke bombs, them coming in, like Kazuki and him, like going, and then Ogino, oh my God. Here's the thing about Rio. And when we go back, we see Taiga and the others, they're all making, and what I love about this little scene, this interlude with the kids making like the paper chains and stuff, is that since Miri has gotten Taiga like integrated into the group, like he's just friends with everybody. Like you see him hanging out with this other kid. It's really sweet. And then Miri's like, I'm going to show Papa Ray and Papa Kazu. This whole episode was very cinematic. It like had like the beats of like a movie where it cuts back to her doing the arts and crafts, going to show my dads. Then it cuts back to them dealing with the family and the organization. It had a lot of very cinematic elements to it. And I really liked the pacing of this episode. I felt at first like they were going to rush through it. At first I was like, man, we have a lot to get through in 23 minutes. But somehow it was just enough. At first I was like, oh, I wish there had been another episode and we could have done it and we could have spread out. But you know what? I'm okay with it. I'm happy with how it ended up being paced. I'm happy with the beats that we got. The greedy side of me wishes that it was more, right? The greedy part of me was like, I want more. But I'm very satisfied with how it ended. Oh, Gino, though, with the damn, like, just shotgun, like, just going in there, and then I just, Ray trying to get around him, right? And I loved using the conference room as a prop. Here's the thing about Rio. I like him as an antagonist in this because he does have a fatal flaw. He's like very scary. He's kind of sociopath. He's very, intimidating. and powerful, but he has a flaw. And his flaw is that he relies upon the words of people dying. And he gives this big speech about it, saying, like, the only thing capable of transcending death is words. I love that, though. And that's like a very, like, moral, like, deep core belief. Like, when you think that words transcend death, it's very poetic, which makes sense. He has a little book that he keeps them all in. So that's his one thing. It's almost like he takes it with him to the grave. Like, it's like almost like a atonement for killing people. He's like, I'm going to kill you, but I'm going to write down your final words, and that's going to transcend beyond your death. And in the end, it doesn't matter because Kazuki blows up the book. So, but yeah, that's his fatal flaw. And what I like about it and how I can accept it in this series is it's something we've set up since the beginning. We've set up that since the beginning that he's been recording last words. Ironically, the only last words he doesn't really get are the guy that he shoots the tire from that blows up in the car and Kazuki's wife. But although we do hear her last words, she calls out for Kazuki. Which kind of connects to Misaki calling out to Miri, the two people that they loved. He says, all I want is the one word that encapsulates your life. Which is very creepy, right? The fact that he's willing to kill someone as long as he can write down the word that it's about. And I like Ray's like, that's not going to happen. I'm not going to do that. But him going through the door, again, I love Kazuki picking up Ray and shuffling him back with him like, come on, buddy, old pal. Come on, we got this. And like their clothes are ruined. They're just like covered in dirt and blood. He's like, damn, that was a close call. Are you alive, man? And then Ray's like, yes. Have you prepared the last suitable words for the Suwa family heir? And Kazuki's like, what the hell? And he's like, Ogino. And then I love that Ray's sitting there and Kazuki realizes that, okay, this guy has to get the last words because otherwise he would have killed him already. He just needs to write down their last words before he kills them. And he's that confident in his own ability that he thinks that he has time and can do that. And I like that Kazuki's like, okay, all right. So you want to write down last words? Okay. You want to hear what Misaki's was? And he uses that against him. I love that. I absolutely loved it. And so he's like, very well. And then he chases him. He chases him like a damn zombie through a house. I was like, no! And then shoots him in the leg. I was like, oh, Kazuki, honey. I was like, these guys getting shot left and right? They're going to have battle wounds. They're going to have scars, right? Oh. And he's like, relay to me the last words that Unosaka, and he says it was the name of her beloved daughter. I love that he doesn't tell him Miri's name. He doesn't give him that. He doesn't give him Miri's name. He just tells him it was the name of her daughter. And I like that Ryo's like, oh, well, that was very mundane. She managed to achieve a mundane love in the end. And Kazuki's like, oh, you bastard. That's going too far. You can kill people left, right, but you say that if you call Misaki's love for her daughter mundane, that's too much. Because he knows. It wasn't. It was so much more than that. And then for Ryo to bring up Kazuki's wife, I was like, are we really going there? And then he says, what purpose does your life even have? He's like, let me hear your last words that define you. And Kazuki, I wanted Kazuki to be like, my purpose. I like that the idea of what's their purpose gets brought up, and their purpose is to have this family with each other and Miri. Like, that's their purpose, to raise her. Like, that's why he's here. He's like, my purpose is to finish kind of what I took on, right? And that responsibility. And at first he said, I'm taking you with me. And I was like, are you really going to do this, Kazuki? Surely not, because you want to be there for Miri. But it was just to, when you see him in that moment, he looks kind of, he's not looking up at Ryo. He's looking behind him like he sees Ray coming. And so he uses that as a moment to distract him. And that's when Ray shows up, right, with the kitchen knife and goes after him. I'm like, Ray, I would have thrown that knife. I would have thrown that knife in the back of his head, just like what Kazuki ends up doing. Oh. And he just, I love the Sherlock kick. Like he knocks Ray down and Ray like spins around and does like the Sherlock jujitsu kick from Moriarty the Patriot. It's great. I love it. But he just, knocks him. The moment he knocks him, his hair all comes undone. I was like, oh, I love that Ray, by the end of this, he goes from having the hair like all pulled back and everything to it all coming down and just being all fluffed around his face. showing like how he really is and not in the assassin persona, I was like, yes, please. It was beautiful, y'all. It was absolutely beautiful. It's saying you can die leaving nothing behind, just like her. Oh. Or just like, he says just like he, but I thought he was going to say just like her. And that's when Kazuki stabs him in the neck. I was like, dude. And the idea that Rei like knocks him back and does the headbutt and he has the book and he falls back. I was not prepared for the gore of that knife going through his neck. Oh, that was, and even Kazuki's like, damn. But, oh, it's almost fitting though. It's fitting that that's the way he dies because it goes through his vocal cords. So he can't say any last words. We don't get to hear Ryo's last words because it goes through his neck. Goes through his vocal cords. So even though he reaches for the notebook to write down his last words, and that's when Kazuki throws the lighter to ignite everything, right? That's when he throws the igniter. But when he's reaching to write down his last words, since he can't say them. The idea like that, like he just died he didn't instantly die. He died in pain. I was like, show, you did not mess around this whole season at all. And then Rei reaching for him, being like, can you stand? And the two of them, he's like, took you long enough. I was like, come on. You guys, you'll never convince me that it's not a thing. Where he's like, took you long enough. And then like supporting each other. And he's like, were you like trying to go out in a blaze of glory? He's like, leave Miri behind? No way. I love that you have, as they leave the scene from Rio, you have Rei holding up Kazuki to help him get out because his leg's been shot. And then when they go into the play to see the Christmas pageant, you have Kazuki holding Rei up. So they support each other. Like, come on. Come on, y'all. I knew you'd be here, partner. It's done. It's a done deal. They've been together for 10 years, y'all. It's over. Like, even if the most they've ever done is fall asleep in a bed together, that's all I need. The fact that they've stayed together as partners for 10 years, oh, I love it. And then, yeah, he doesn't get to write the words down. It all burns up. And then Rei tells Kazuki to get the getaway car ready. It's just him and his dad. And I like that Kazuki's like, okay, you're not going to try anything stupid, right? Like, they patch up his leg, and so he can walk. And he's like, okay, are you going to be all right? Do you got this? You going to be okay by yourself? And he's like, just fine. I pinky promised Miri. So just like Kazuki was like, I wasn't going to blow myself up because then I couldn't see Miri's Christmas pageant. Rei's like, I've got a pinky promise with her. So cute. So damn cute. I love it so much. And everything's great. And then Miri getting ready with her little like gear and everything. And then Kazuki goes in. And I knew his dad would have a gun on the table. Like, you just know, right? And he shows up. What I'm amazed at is that they don't kill the dad. And the thing about it is that I think that in the end, that's a good thing. Because I didn't really know how I'd feel about it if he lived. And during the reaction, I was like, they let him go. And the dad did. But here's the thing. The dad didn't kill him in the end. He didn't shoot after him. He let him go. He let him walk out. Because the funny thing is at the very end, even though he's never claimed to be his father, and he's always treated him like he's just a weapon and nothing more, in the end, he's so obsessed with the idea that Rei is his only bloodline and the heir to the Suwa family, he can't kill him. He can't waste that bloodline to him, even if he's useless because he shot his arm. He shot his arm so he can't be. He shot his arm so he can't be an assassin, but he can be a chef. You know. But I think that's so telling of the dad that at the end of the day, despite him being he's so obsessed with bloodlines, he can't kill his son, but he's driven his son away from him by not being a father. It's wild, right? It's wild, and I'm kind of glad that he doesn't die in the end because, like he said, he's like, if you kill me. There's it's like John Wick. There's a whole organization that's there. And he's like, if you kill me, the organization's never going to let you rest. And so Rei's like, I'm not killing you. Like, I'm not about to do that. I don't want them to come after us, but I'm not going to work for you anymore. So you're just going to have to deal with it. I could see some people not liking how that ended, but I'm for that resolution. I'm fine with that. I'm okay with it. It's fine. And he says, I'm leaving. And then he says he can't permit it. He's like, no, I don't think you understand. This isn't my fate. I'm leaving the organization. Like, you're not stopping me. No. Like, this is it. Bye. And he aims the gun at him, but Ray shoots him faster. He's like, I'm a faster shot than you. Mm-hmm. And that's when he says, if you kill me, the organization will pursue you to the ends of the earth. And he's like, I'm not killing you. You and all those that you love. Which here's the thing. He says, kill me, Ray. He says he'll pursue you and all that you love. So he has acknowledged, Ray's dad has acknowledged that Ray loves Kazuki and Miri. That he's like the one guy that left the organization too. He's like, these are your loves. Again, canon. And he's like, then just kill me, Ray. And then you can go down with me. And Ray's like, nah, I'm not going to fall to your level. Kind of over it. Because he's like, you can't escape our bloodline. And I like these, like, spending time away from you. I needed time away from you to realize that darkness walks hand in hand with light. Right? And I love that. I love these, like, I found the lights of my life, but I've realized that there's darkness all around. And that no matter where I go, he's like, your idea of intimidating me with the fact this organization is going to come after me if you die. He's like, I know there's people like that in the world. It's always going to have some darkness in it. He's like, I get it. We can't escape that. But he's like, that's not going to stop me from living my life. I'm not going to sit here in fear and inherit your world because of that, you know. He's like, the reason I'm alive today is because you taught me how to survive. And so he's like, I'm grateful for that. Like, thanks. Maybe you did do one thing right in your life, and that's teaching me the tools to be able to live in this world despite its darkness. He's like, maybe I could have lived a life where I inherited the organization. Could have been it. But spending time away from you has shown me many more things. Like, there's things I want more. And what I love is that we get the montage from the beginning. And as the montage goes, things get closer and closer and closer with Ray. Like, we get closer to his heart. We get closer to what he wants. He starts out in that scene where Kazuki was making the meal for Miri for the first time, and he was kind of casually ignoring him, right? He says, an annoying mother hen of a roommate, which Kazuki's a mother hen, right? And he is annoying sometimes. The taste of cheap hamburger steak. And he says, the warmth that comes from sleeping 3 to a bed. Yeah, I want more of that. You know more of that happened. You know it went down, especially once he was out of the organization and didn't have to sleep in that bathtub anymore. You know there were many more nights where they were sleeping 3 to a bed. You know that there was. Maybe even 2 to a bed afterwards, you know. Just for warmth. That's all. Right? Because he loved that. Taking care of a sick child like that. I feel like from that moment, the moment he took care of Miri when she was sick, when Kazuki went off in episode 7, that was the moment that Ray decided he really loved Miri and wanted to be her dad for sure. Was taking care of her, like realizing that. How to make French toast. And that's what he ends up, that's his signature dish. Making the French toast is his signature dish that he makes in the restaurant. So that's one of the things he's come to love, right? And doing that. An unexpected surprise party from Kazuki and Miri. A gold medal from a field day with them. The view from the top of a Ferris wheel with them. There are so many things out there that I could hold dear. These moments with my family. Mm-hmm. And then him telling his father. And his father's like, well, that's all just going through the motions of family. Like, no matter how you struggle, you can't escape your bloodlines. He's like, you can pretend to be a family, but you're still an assassin in the end, and that's your fate. And then I like that Ray gets mad. He's like, that may be going through the motions with you, but it's not for me. You may have thought that was mundane and not worth it, but it is for me. Miri, Kazuki, and I share a bond stronger than blood. God, I love that line. I love it, because it's just establishing that, the bond they share, it's better than anything. Mm-hmm. I want to believe in that. Yeah, like, I want to become a real family. Yeah, like, I love the idea that even you see them in the restaurant together. Like, they've been together for 10 years. That's just how it is, right? Mm-hmm. We're a real family. If my killer's blood gets in the way and won't let me protect the two of them, then these hands have no purpose. He's like, if you tell me that me being a killer is going to keep me from protecting the people that I love, then I'll just quit being I'll incapacitate myself to where I can't be a killer. And then that won't be a problem. I love it so much. I love it so much. I love it so much. I love that he just shoots himself in the arm like that's it. There. Now what? I'm also like, you boys, you could still fire the one gun. He's like, I'm worthless to you now. I was like, you could have shot him with the other hand. Aren't I? And then, yeah, it's like, that's what you valued me for, was just for my usefulness as a tool. And he drops the gun and walks out. And he tells him goodbye. And I love that he says farewell, father. He doesn't say farewell, boss. He actually calls him his father in that moment and says bye. And I was waiting for the man to fire the gun because he could still use the other hand, right? But he doesn't do it. He can't do it. He lets him go. And so Kazuki has the getaway car and he's like, dude, your arm. And he's like, I did it myself. And he's like, why'd you do that? He's like, you just kind of went overboard. Why? What was the whole point? And then them driving back, he says, hey, Kazuki, do you think we managed to change? And I like that Kazuki's like, we've got a long way to go. So the answer, he doesn't directly say yes, but it's like, yeah, we're in the process of changing. We still got some things to do, but we're getting there, right? And then we go to the Christmas pageant. And what I like is that the whole time they're singing, she's singing, but she's kind of like distracted. Mary's like, where are they? Like she's looking for them. And then in they come, arm in arm. Like we see everybody's family, like Tyga's. Also, Tyga's mom wore a hoodie to the Christmas pageant. What a sports mom. She's like ready to go to a soccer game after this. Like we got practice in like an hour after this. We practiced at midnight in the snow for soccer. Tyga, get on it. Like what a sports mom. Love it. Love it. And then she sees them come in. And they come in arm with Ray having the Santa thing pulled over his arm so you can't see that he's been shot. Also, I like that right outside the daycare door, we have 2 hot air balloons together. Imagine that. Imagine that. Papa Ray. I love this when she hugs Kazuki and Kazuki's like, oh, getting a little bit hurt there. Ray's face at him, like that little smile. Oh my gosh. She's like, I felt that. And then him looking at Miri like, Miri, you're a really good singer. Oh, I love them together. I love all of them together. Ready to read the fan fiction. Give it to me now. Let me have it. And she said, Santa, thank you for the present. My 2 dads. And it's like it all comes full circle back to when she wanted the presents and for Christmas and at the very beginning of the series. It's just like my heart is so full. And then Anna, I love that Miri never forgot the phrase that Anna said. She's like, what do mice say? And says cheese. Also, Anna, when she starts the piano playing during the concert is really funny because she's like, don't mess up. Anna's so freaking relatable. She's just like, oh God, don't mess up. Kids, make sure you know how to sing because I can't. I would be Anna in this series for sure. And then Kazuki, my old outfit was soaked with blood and holes and such. And then she's like, let's get a picture of all of us together. And then daughter daddies. I just freaking can't. So here's my thing. Before we get into the after credits, before we get into the epilogue, if they wanted to do a sequel series called Daughter Daddies instead of Buddy Daddies, if they wanted to do a sequel series, they could. They could. I like that they leave it open just enough, right? They leave it open just enough. Like I don't want Ray's dad to come back into the picture at all. I don't. Could they make him come back into the picture once, since Miri's older? Maybe. Maybe since it's been 10 years and he's older too. Maybe it could be like I don't know how you could redeem the dad though. Ray's father. I don't know how you could redeem him. He's like an old Yakuza boss, but who knows? It's anime. But it leaves the door open, right? It could be Daughter Daddies. It could be, you could have a sequel series, a sequel season where it's Kazuki and Ray trying to deal with their teenage daughter Miri. You could do that if you want to. Now, do I think they're going to do it? I honestly don't think they're going to do a sequel to this series. I really don't. I'm hoping that maybe they would do like an OVA. If they did like an OVA showing stuff that was happening within those 10 years, that would be cool. Or if they did an OVA showing Kazuki getting the store and the restaurant opened up, the restaurant started. If they did a little OVA about that, that would be cute. I feel like jumping ahead 10 years at the very end with Daughter Daddies, I feel like jumping ahead, it opens the door that if they wanted to do like a little OVA or a special or like a little mini series, they could, and it would be very adorable and it would be awesome. And I really would love something like that. But they could do a sequel series. They could do a series covering what happens within those 10 years. They could do lots of things. The fact that they've jumped ahead 10 years and give us just enough context and that little collage at the end, it opens the door for so many possibilities. But if they don't do anything, if this truly is the end of Buddy Daddies, then it's like, it feels fine. It feels justified. It feels satisfying. It's just enough to give us endless fodder for fan fiction. It's just literally what it does. It has given us endless fodder to work with. Like, okay, you have 10 years worth of fan fiction, go. And plus, it's, again, cementing that those two stay together. Because they're not only just friends, two killers that took in a girl, they are daddies of a daughter. She's theirs. Meaning they take care of her together. And I love it. So yeah, we go to this epilogue here, and they're like on the coast. It's beautiful. I love that we parallel. When we first started, we were like driving into the city when they were like going to find Mary after they like left that one job because she was sick. They like went together, and we see them go along the edge of the beach. There's the shop, right? And clearly she and they all live above the restaurant, right? I love that Mary... I feel like Mary's met Karine. You know why I think that? Because her hair is kind of like Karine's. I feel like, and she was on the collage too, like her. I feel like Karine came and visited at least once, and Mary saw her hair and was like, oh, I like that hairstyle, because it's kind of similar. But I like that she kept, like, you see like a happy birthday basket. You see like little things that are very teenage girls, and then she has the photo of her and her mom. Her and her mom that came from the packet of photos from when they first met her. Mm-hmm. Yep. And it's been 10 years. And then I love that the cafe is like, have a grateful day. It's the diner nest. When I saw I love that the window says, have a grateful day. Like they're grateful for this being able to be a family together, right? And it says coffee and food, I think, and drinks, I think. But I also love that it's called Diner Nest because it's connected to the bird that was in Kyu's bar that they started at. And also, I like the idea that it reminded me of the BL Love Nest. That's what it reminded me of, which are about two guys that end up living together. And one guy's kind of bisexual. So I'm like, just connecting those back together, just saying. But God, I love Kazuki. Kazuki keeping the same pants, but wearing the different red shirt. And then Ray's grown his hair out. Ray's grown his hair out, and he has it back in the ponytail, but he has like little tendrils. I'm like, He's grown his hair out, and she's like Papa Ray and Papa Kazu. And Kazuki has a little goatee, and he's trimmed his hair up. And then old Miri, she has her little clip, and she's a high school student. Ta-da! It's so cute. And Ray has that monotone face, and she's like, bingo! Kazuki's like, I'm so glad you didn't become a bad delinquent kid like I had anticipated. Like, she doesn't look anything like what Kazuki had imagined her looking like as a high school student. Also, if you notice, there's little things around the restaurant, like the Jim Beam mirror that was in Kazuki's bedroom is now in the restaurant itself. And a lot of the little signs that were in his bedroom and the plants have been transported, like the cactus and the aloe vera plant, they're on the desk, right? So I like to imagine... my headcanon, since some items from Kazuki's room, his old bedroom from the apartment, are now in the restaurant, my headcanon is that, him and Ray just happen to have one room together and they just have to decorate it to fit one person. So yeah, that's just my headcanon. Just don't know if it's true or not. Who knows? Could be wrong. He's like, when you're a parent, there's so much to worry about. The 10 years I spent doing honest work since opening this diner have really paid off. And I love that Ray's like, honest work? Like what honest work? And Mary even calls him out. She's like, didn't you slip out yesterday to go drinking with a girl again? So here's the thing, though. And Kazuki goes, oh, well, that doesn't count. Right? He's like, oh, no, never mind. That doesn't count. Here's the thing, though. You could, if you wanted to, when he says go slipping out to go drink with a girl again, yeah, you could take that as he was going to go hang out with some girls and be flirty and stuff, whatever. But you could also take it as he's in the mom chat. He could have gone out with one of the young moms to go drinking or something, like on a day drink. Could happen. So if people are going to make, their own headcanons, I am too. Like I said, at the end of the day, he's staying with Ray. So just saying. And then he gives her the breakfast. And it's his signature French toast. And Olivia's like, how is it? And she's like, oh, it's tasty as always. Mm-hmm. And Ray's smiling. And Kazuki's like, I'm glad you got a signature dish with that toast, but, you should expand your repertoire a little. And he's like, why? I love that Ray's the type of person, he's like, if I have something I like, why change it? Mm-hmm. He's like, you're such a one-trick pony. And she's like, it's fine that that's the case since Papa Ray's is the best. Aww. And then she gets down and he's like, oh, it's a little early for school. And she's like, no, I want to get it. She's got the selfie stick and the photo. I love it. It's great. She's like, come here, Papas. And I love that they're taking it right outside their restaurant, like right outside their home. And it's a nest. It's a home. It's for all of them together. All of the symbolism. And she's like, Papa Ray, Papa Kazu, squeezing closer. And he's like, well, it's fine, right? And she's like, no. She's like, it's not. We're family. Mm-hmm. And they're like, family? And then Kazuki's like, well, it can't be helped, can it? Yep. And then them together, God, I love that selfie of them. That selfie is so beautiful. Mm-hmm. And them all smiling. Yep. I love it. I just love it so much. And then we see the collage of all them. So here's the thing. Again, you talk about context, right? We have the three of them together on the first day of her school. We have her in middle school at the entrance exam. Ray's got the blazer and the jeans and everything. He's wearing a white shirt. That's probably Ray. Probably Kazuki's, just saying. And wearing the boyfriend shirt. And then Kazuki having the nice jacket and everything. I love it. And then the two of them. And then we see Q with the teacup. He looks like Alfred from the end of Batman, The Dark Knight Rises, where he's just at the cafe, living his best life. Little do we know that I'm the one taking that photo of Q and sending it to Kazuki and them. Just saying. And then, Anna-chan with Anna giving her the biggest hug and Karine in Paris at school. Now, here's the thing. In all of the pictures where it is just Miri and Kazuki or Miri and Ray, we all know that it was either Kazuki or Ray on the other side taking the photo. So they've been together all these years, right? They've just been together taking these photos because Ray took the picture of Kazuki and Miri with her first backpack, and she has a little green bunny that's in her room still. The picture of Miri sleeping beside Ray on the floor, Kazuki took that one. Then you have the photo of Miri with her friends in the mud playing. The beach photo. There was a beach episode that we missed. And it was of them at the beach. And Kazuki sitting up the umbrella with the cooler for all of them. And Ray took the photo. Come on. And then them all together at Christmas together. It's too much. I love it so much. It's so beautiful. And that's all we needed. It's so good. Oh, My heart is full. My heart is full, and I have the desire to read all the fan fiction now because I can't be spoiled. I cannot be spoiled in this series. So it's over. It's great. It's wonderful. But I want to go look at that Tumblr post as well. I will include a link down in the description of the video for you all to see, so you have it. But this is from Skeleton Punching on Tumblr. And they said, translator's note, this is a short story that was posted on the Buddy Daddies website, which you could unlock by collecting stickers. It is set pre-canon and contains no spoilers. So I'm going to read this story to y'all, and you guys can check it out. But I've not read it yet. This is my reaction. I just opened this up, have it ready to go. Have not read it myself, but we're going to read this. Suo Ray, clad in a black suit, inquired quizzically from the passenger seat. so it's here today. Kurusu Kazuki in the driver's seat turned off the car engine as he replied, "This isn't a job." A few months had passed since this homeless freeloader had wound up with Ray. They'd also formed quite a dynamic work duo, but Ray still couldn't follow Kazuki's train of thought. Then what? There's one thing, just one thing in this world that I absolutely can't stand. Threadbare t-shirts! What? Let's go! Kazuki flung the door open and sprang out into the car park. Right before him, resplendent in the flood of sunlight, stood an enormous shopping mall. Ray, still in the car, lifted a hand. "Knock yourself out. You're coming too!" Who do you think we're buying clothes for? Right now, you don't even have clothes to go clothes shopping in, do you? That's why I ended up having to drag you here in your work getup. Well, I'll buy them online. Do you even know your own underwear size? Got you there, didn't I? Now, come on! Kazuki, do you know his underwear size? No, joking. Ray begrudgingly hauled himself out of the passenger seat, his hair pulled back in a ponytail, instantly wilted under the early summer sunbeams. General stores, flower shops, sporting goods stores, cafes, opticians, jewelry shops, all sorts of specialty stores stood proudly in long ranks. The two of them made their way along the gently curving paths. The myriad shop fronts were lined with every imaginable item. With a place like this on hand, you would never want for anything. A pair of grown men might stick out like a sore thumb in a mall like this, but the place was mostly empty on this weekday afternoon, and so there were no curious stares to pursue them. Kazuki made for a menswear store with his reluctant roommate in tow. Ah! A shriek suddenly echoed through the cavernous mall, and they reflexively jerked to a stop. Kazuki whirled towards the source of a voice. "No, I want this!" Oh! A toddler was plopped down on the ground, clutching a toy tightly. The toddler's mother scowled. "Don't you have the same one at home?" "It's not! This is not the same!" "Give it back. Put it down." It was just a trivial parent-child interaction, but it made Kazuki's breath catch in his throat. A life completely alien to an assassin. A scene that could never be bestowed onto him. An everyday existence that lay just out of reach. Those illusions he had long since given up were now flitting across his mind. But Kazuki began to walk again, setting one foot stiffly before the other. Just because he'd given up on a normal life didn't mean he could let himself sink into a sloppy mess. A worn-out threadbare t-shirt shouldn't just be treated as the norm. If no one was going to care for you, you should at least look after yourself. Huh? Just then it abruptly dawned on Kazuki. Ray had escaped! Oh, I love that Kazuki was, that was like a little preview of that, right? And he's like, if I'm not, if you can't have a normal life, you gotta take care of yourself, right? If you can't love yourself, how are you gonna love somebody else, right? Given his profession, he was a dab hand at lockpicking. He was confident it would take him less than 30 minutes to crack all the locks in the store. In Ray's imaginary shopping mall, a scene took shape, painted by the sounds of their cries. Dogs released from their cages, scampering in packs through the deserted sprawl of the mall. Cats smoothly scaling the clothing racks and curling up on top for an afternoon nap. Rabbits freely gnawing on the lighting cables. Tortoises taking a leisurely swim in the plaza fountain. Parrots gliding through the air, adorning the halls with their vivid plumage. What are you up to? Nothing. Ray's hazy fantasies were dispelled by his partner's call. Need something from the pet shop? We're not getting one. I know. Oh, he wanted a pet! So you have Kazuki thinking about, kids, and Ray thinking about something to take care of. Foreshadowing, y'all. I know. Yeah, you sure don't look like you know. Listen, in our line of work, there's no way we can be responsible for anyone else's life. Anyway... Ray dimly heard Kazuki launch into his lecture. He was used to being ordered around by other people. It was a natural part of his daily life. And so he thought nothing of this sort of incessant chiding. But now Ray found himself subconsciously listening to Kazuki's speech. It even felt not too bad. That's weird for me. Ray muttered under his breath, and the cat before him cocked his head as if to match. So he's okay with Kazuki chiding him. He's okay with Kazuki being a mother hen, even though he's been used to being lectured his whole life and being ordered around by others. He's okay with this. Right, okay. Sure thing, sure Jan. I like that because it's establishing that Ray, has never been one to take charge of his own life and do things because he's wanted to, which we'll see him do by the end of the season. But he's okay with Kazuki telling him what to do. Right? And then whoosh, the rail rang out as the fitting room curtain slid open. See, that's better, isn't it? Is it? Ray's t-shirt was printed with a drawing of a cat in a bowl. It was utterly unbecoming for an assassin. Ray's face, surrounded by his loose hair, also looked somewhat awkward. Are you embarrassed? Not really. Should we put it back? I'm buying it. Whoosh, the rail rang as the fitting curtain slid shut. So, Kazuki helped him get the cat shirt. Okay. Just what kind of poses did that guy strike when he looked into the mirror? Kazuki stifled a smile, leaning back against the wall. He called out, a real cat's out of the question. So make do with that for now. Yeah, this suits me. Ray's reply from the other side of the curtain sounded not entirely displeased. Oh, so Kazuki imagining Ray like striking a pose in the mirror. Shut up! Oh! That was so sweet. Y'all. That was so absolutely amazing. Oh. Yeah, I'm in love with this series. I'm so glad I decided to watch it because I honestly, when I first heard about it way back in December, when I first heard about it, that it was coming out, I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't know if I'll like it. I don't know if it's going to be for me. You know, it seems like it might be a knockoff of Spy Family. I don't know. I am so glad I followed my gut. I'm so glad I followed my gut and watched this because this is like Skate the Infinity. This filled the hole that Skate the Infinity had left for me. And I want more, but I'm greedy. So if this is all I get, I'm going to have to get this on Blu-ray. I'm going to have to get this. I'm going to have to own it because I'm going to want to pop it in on my DVD player and just like sit there and watch it one day and just savor it because it's so good. It's so good. Now I have to watch the dub. I haven't watched the dub at all for this, so I need to go back and watch the dub now. So that'll be fun. I'll have a reason to rewatch it, right? God, it's so good. I love it so much, y'all. So I'm going on a trip here next week, and so I have a feeling I'm gonna like be watching the dub on my trip while I'm like in my hotel room being like, buddy daddies. So y'all, I really hope you enjoyed these reactions and this discussion. We can talk about it forever now because no spoilers, right? So I hope they end up at least making an OVA. I think this series hopefully will be popular enough they'll make an OVA or two out of it. Even if we don't get a sequel series, I hope we get an OVA because I would really like that. I think it'd be kind of cool. I feel like this is a show that maybe the creators, they spent so much time like interviewing parents and getting the info and putting it together. They have an Instagram account for it. Like I feel that it's popular enough that they're going to want to at least keep putting out content for it because it is popular. So maybe even if they do an OVA, that'd be great. If they did a movie, they could even do like, because we have a 10-year gap, they could do a movie to show them like getting the restaurant together and maybe they have to fight off some people from the organization. Maybe they have to, give us like a fake filler villain, whatever. But maybe they have to do that. They talked in the episode about how Kyu had forged the documentation on Miri so that they could evade the law for a while until, for the day, they wouldn't investigate the daycare for a while still. So maybe that could be the subject of the movie. Just like, or if it's just like a fluff movie where it's just them hanging out and having fun adventures together, I would love that. Like, give me an hour-long special of these guys going, give me a beach episode OVA, beach OVA. I want a beach OVA with Ray and Kazuki and Miri at the beach. I need it. I need like maybe Kazuki can't swim and there's something with that and Ray like ends up saving him from drowning. Maybe there's like, we'll do a freestyle CPR fake out. Like I just need it. I need more content with them. I'm greedy and I know it. But I love this series so much. It's one of my favorite things I've watched this spring and I'm gonna miss it so much. There's gonna be a buddy daddies, daughter daddies hole left in my heart from this series that I'm just going to have to keep watching the show to fill. And that's what I got to do. So I hope y'all enjoyed this series. I'm so excited to hear your thoughts down below about it. But y'all, this has been so much fun. So Thank you so much. Maybe we'll do a live stream for Buddy Daddies later this summer. Maybe I'll do like a summer Buddy Daddies live stream or something like that. I've got so many shows that are ending this spring that I need to do live streams about. We haven't done them in forever. So I'm going to be planning lots of live streams, and Buddy Daddies may have to be one. I may have to have like a month-long live stream series and just cover the series that I finished. And we'll just have to do that, right? I think that's what's going to have to happen. So anyway, I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yes, thank you all so much for watching with me, and I hope you all enjoy my other reactions. And until then, I'll see y'all again soon.